Welcome to the Sacred Service Podcast. We're finally here and ready to be of service with you guys. I am Starr Shontere and so excited to be here and sharing this podcast with you guys and with my beautiful guest. Guest. Which way are you? This way. Guest Tyler Tanner. Yay. Happy to have you here with us. And, we're just so delighted to be sharing all things in sacred service. And we're here to share some wisdom, some things on our hearts that are all about psychedelics and plant medicine, and really and truly all things in that way of being sacred. So, we're starting out our podcasts with the plant medicines and really diving in. And so, we're so grateful to have you here. We've got a whole bunch of lineups and interviews and ways to help you perhaps navigate this sacred realm that we are living in right now. So, take what resonates with you in your heart, leave the rest behind, and know that we're here for the highest good of all beings, for the highest good of our own self, and the highest good for this beautiful earth that we get to live on. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, Ty, how you
Hello,
doing, my
hello.
love?
I am doing good. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction and kind of laying the foundation for why we're here, Star. I'm so grateful for you in my life and how our paths have crossed and brought us to this beautiful place of now being able to birth this sacred service podcast. Um, as she said, my name is Tyler Tanner, and in working with the Sacred Service podcast, my intention, is to be in sacred service to myself and to my and being in alignment with my highest self and what I want to put out there into the world. And change, the older that I get and the more that I live this life, the more I realize that change is the only constant, you know.
It's inevitable. Transformation, on the other hand, that's a choice. So,
Yes,
we know that change is always going to happen, but how you transform, that's your choice. And this is really what we come to psychedelics all about, right? For that transformation, for that movement through. So,
exactly. And so in choosing to transform and to step into the embodiment of my highest self and being able to put that out on a platform, for other people to witness. If somebody takes inspiration from that and, it starts them on a path to find those own tools that we all have within ourselves, that's really the goal here.
oh,
Yes, we change within to change without. So thank you so much for being here,
yes.
Star. I'm so
Oh,
excited to get into this. We are going to start out this podcast. We have a bunch of videos lined up with interviews of people and their own experiences in this journey here on Earth and their experiences with the plant medicines provided by this beautiful Pachamama to facilitate their own growth. So I'm so excited to have those start rolling out. Today, I really wanted us to start by, pulling a card for the collective, kind of getting that those feelers out for the collective in this humanity, and then kind of go into our own little back and forth, kind of asking each other some questions. How did we
this is
find
a
plant medicine?
Right. This is a
Yeah.
great opportunity for you guys who maybe don't know us to learn a little bit more about us. So we're kind of going to take this opportunity to interview each other, which is kind of fun. So yeah, it'll be a really fun. And I'm shuffling up these. I showed you guys the Lumerian deck because that was sitting right here saying, "Oh, pick me." This is a new deck that I just got in Mount Shasta. And I love the artist of this deck. In fact, this is Izzy Ivy. I don't know if you guys can see that right there. And she does all of the artwork on this as well. Our friend and sister in medicine, Ashley Schaefer actually got to do a beautiful retreat with her. So we got a card. OMG. What is going on about it?
The anticipation.
Bum, bum, bum. You're not going to be surprised. It is the sacral chakra.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm excited for this because last week we're kind of, we're in the sacred realms, guys. So we have been recording podcasts and podcasts and podcasts. And we were on last week with an interview. And we decided this week to go back and redo our first one because it kind of got a little messed up. So last week in our podcast, I had, just before we came on, I pulled a card. And we never really talked about it, did we? We talked about it just a little bit in that, wow, the sacral chakra, that was a card that I had pulled for humanity of the day, and we got into talking about it. But here we are back at it, and it says, you guys, y'all need to really talk about the sacral chakra because this is big juju. So sacral chakra, Ty, what do you know about the sacral chakra? Let's dive into just the logistics of the sacral chakra.
Right. So it's the second chakra from the base, so we have that root that grounds us, so deeply here to this earth. And then that sacral chakra, that is to me pure divine creation energy.
Oh, right. What are we creating? But it's also involving all of our senses, guys. So we cannot be closed off to our sensual self when we are in the process of creating. And I think that this card keeps wanting to come up for us, you guys, because I think on a massive shift, we all know we're going through massive collective shift on our planet and throughout our universe, actually. And when we think about our sacral chakra, we think about this creation. What are we willing to start creating in this time? We cannot create from the same old paradigm that we're trying to shift out of, right? So maybe in this here and now, in this now moment, let's just take a breath right now into that. It's located about maybe 2 fingers down from your belly button. So if you're unaware of where that is, just kind of check in and take a nice deep breath into that sacral chakra and just feel what's going on there. Is there tightness? Is there openness? Can you feel this sacral chakra with all of your senses? And maybe even ask yourself, what do you wish to create in your life today? And are you willing to commit to that creation from your highest self, from your highest frequency? What are we creating? We're creating a sacred service podcast. Hey, hey.
Yes. Oh my gosh. For me personally, when I'm feeling into that sacral chakra and feeling the immensity of this creative, divine power that is, I feel within me, that is within all of us, it feels so immense that that small side of yourself is almost afraid of, at least for me. It's
because it's so big.
It's so big. Yeah. And it's so okay. So we did a little bit of a journey work yesterday that Starr had led a class that I was participating in through. And one of those weights that were holding me down was it was actually the last one that you did, Starr, and it was tracking the weight of what has been with you through all
Across
time,
all realms. Yeah.
which is so big in and of itself.
It
And
is. You mean I've been carrying this small self around for lifetimes? Yo.
so I
Can
come,
you guys relate to that? I mean, think about, how, and when we think about the small self, we're thinking about that little voice that's in the back of your head that goes, "No, I can't do that. Oh, you don't have enough whatever education, you don't have enough money, you don't have a blah 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 blah, telling you why you cannot step in to your highest self, to your most amazing self. So it's funny to think this little small self that we've been dragging through lifetimes to remind us that the
you know,
bullshit, right?
yeah, and to remind us and to show us, and to witness our divine power. And I recognize the immensity of this work and that I do not understand it in its totality. However, what I did take away from that knowing is this fear of, I saw that painting that I think it's Michelangelo in the chapel, like with the fingers touching, like when they're reaching across. Do you know what I'm talking about? That was the imagery that was coming through, and it's like this almost joining of energies and my own personal fear of being unable to step up and really embody that and take that power back and join hands with the divine. I was recognizing
Wow.
that as my understanding, what I took away from
Wow,
that
that's
practice.
beautiful. That's so beautiful. And I think it's important for us to recognize that our higher self, the divine, all of that is within us, and we don't have to reach outside of ourselves for that at all. You know, when I was diving into my own sacral during that card, what I pictured, what I sensed, what I felt was this great web that was coming out of my chakra and connected with all things. So when we think about this sacred second chakra in our creation, is that we can think of it like this, that we are already connected to everything. So we can make manifest by pulling in and aligning our energy lines with those trajectories, those frequencies, whatever it is, right? Because we already have an established connection to all things in life.
Mm-hmm.
We are a part of the great web. There is no separation. And this is the big, truth that we have to really sink our teeth and our hearts into, I think, is that there is no separation.
Mm-mm.
There is no us and them.
And what we are doing here on this earth is removing these layers to have these deep remembrances of why we are here,
And
you
who
know?
we are. Remember who we are. We've got all these layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of all the bullshit and conditioning and, all the stories and all the things that we think we should be, da 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 da, all layered. So it's just a peeling away of all the layers so that we can remember that we are the earth, that we are the stars, that we are the sacred realm, that we are here, right now, to be in sacred service.
Mm.
Hence the name of our Sacred Service podcast. I believe that we're all here to be in sacred service. And it doesn't matter what you do for a living or how you earn your income, it's how you're showing up, right? Are you
Right.
showing up in integrity? Are you showing up with your heart open? Are you showing up as a wounded victim? Are you showing up with all of your, trials and tribulations that are now a smokescreen that keeps you in separation? That's not your being in your sacred service. You got to align with your heart. You got to feel what's there and know that this great mystery is unfolding in such an exciting way
And we
for
have
you. For
for
you,
us. Oh
not
my
to
gosh.
you, for
That
us.
was that was actually something that came through this morning when I was kind of getting ready for my day, was that, this world, this life is conspiring for you, you know, like everything that you want, believe in your dreams. Everything that you want is truly seeking you as well. And we
Oh,
have the choice. It's a choice to step into that and to accept that and to allow that to unfold. And so I'm thinking of this quote, and it's, I mean, been circulating around forever and forever. It's not new, but everything that we want is on the other side of fear. And so I think
mm,
taking a look at that fear and tracking that in the body, and bringing out those shadows, bringing out those things that we feel that resistance to, that conflict to, and making friends with and asking, what do you need?
right, right. The greatest work of all, right, is the shadow work, is the work that, and this brings us back to plant medicines, and like how and why. Why do we go in to ceremony with psychedelics and plant medicines? And part of that is that connection, that we have to remember who we are. We have to come back and peel these layers off. And the plant medicines are really for us in this transformation. And it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful experience to be able to allow this incredible experience to unfold and to take away some of those layers and some of those conditionings and help us to come home to
Mm.
ourselves. So, Tyler and I met actually through plant medicine, well, through a friend, right? His best friend was in a ceremony with me and came back, I guess, and said, blah, 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 meet Starr. And when Tyler and I met, I don't know if you felt this way, but I felt an instant connection, like you were family. I really did. I felt like you were family. I felt like there are just some people that you meet and instantly, like, oh, this is a brother, like a lifetime brother. I feel like we've been traveling those realms together for a really long time. And Tyler came in, I'll never forget, I saw you on a Zoom call. You were pulling a group together to sit in the medicine. And it was just instant, like, woo, okay, brother, 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 yay, we're finally united. It felt to me like a long lost connection. And and of course we sat in ceremony together, and we have a few times since then. And gosh, Tyler now is going through the mentorship program and really stepping in a big way. And I'm so proud to see. I don't know if proud's the right word, but it'll suffice for right now. If proud to me, when I say I feel proud of you, for some reason that kind of brings a level of,
Hierarchy.
yes, thank you. I don't, yeah, and that's where it feels uncomfortable. Um, but I do feel a sense of like, wow, go to watch, to witness, to experience you unfolding and stepping so clearly on your path over this last year, year and a half, 2 years, 2 years
Mm-hmm.
has been amazing and beautiful. And so here we are, we've come all this way, and coming through the dance, through the Icaros, through the medicine, through, life, and bringing together. We decided we were sitting in February, and I was really kept feeling in that ceremony that we needed to bring the Sacred Service podcast to fruition, because Tyler and I, not only do we have this connection, but I feel that this connection is has been brought together in this lifetime again, because what we share needs to get out there and share with you. We need to share our experiences in this deep way. I think it's mostly because I feel that you guys need to hear it, whatever it is that comes out. What happens for Tyler and I is that we get together, and there are times where we have tried to record the Sacred Service podcast and we have forgotten to hit record, and we've spent 2 hours just this expansiveness. Or maybe have decided not to push record because we're in our processes and we've gone, damn, we should have really pushed record because I really feel like there's something bigger going on in the conversations. And that something bigger is the ripple effect in which we are able to touch lives in such a deep way. So I feel like this is all spirit driven in coming together to do this. And so, again, I just want to say, take what resonates, ponder what you think maybe doesn't resonate, and see why it doesn't resonate, and push the rest of it aside. We speak the truth from our hearts as we see it from our perspective, and that makes a difference. It's not always the truth, but it's from our hearts and it's from the perspective of which we've come. And so that lens is from the lens of experience in which we speak.
Absolutely. I think that's so wonderfully said, Starr. And it's so crazy for me to think about everything that I have gone through in my life up until this point to be here on the Sacred Service podcast. And so, I think that's a beautiful kind of segue to
Yeah,
get
can I
into
ask what brought you in? What prompted you to just specifically come into grandmother medicine? We'll start there. How about that? What was like do you remember your intention for that first ceremony?
oh wow.
What was calling you? How did grandmother call you?
Oh wow.
I know, long ago and far away, right?
Long ago and far away.
Many moons have passed.
Really, because when people, I feel like in general, feel call to plant medicine or to the psychedelic experience, I feel like psychedelics find you in a sense. And so if it's meant for you, if it's part of the process that you are here to experience, it'll all align how it's supposed to unfold. Because we tried to kind of get together and figure out how things were going to work out a couple of times, because when we first met, I think it was like a year out before we actually sat together. It was like 6 months to a year for kind of everything to come together. Because I remember when my best friend told me that she was going to go see uh, a ceremonial leader. She was going to go and imbibe in this beautiful plant medicine, grandmother ayahuasca, and it just like set a fire in me. I was so excited for her, and I was like, holy crap, girl. It was because we've been friends, me and her, for such a long time, since we were freshmen in high school. And so to see her process and her path and everything that we had experienced together, because we had experienced psychedelics together, I feel like I was actually the one to introduce her to kind of that experience. And so to see the transformation within her when we would go into these sessions together, to see that inspire her to really take charge of her own life and to go do something for herself that she needed. It wasn't what her mom told her to do. It wasn't what a partner told her to do. She was like, I need to do this for myself. And then that led her to and that experience. So when she came back and she told me everything about it, I was like, oh my God, like I want that. I feel like I need that in my life. And I'm such an instant gratification type personality that I was like, oh my God, I want this right now,
I want it now.
And so I feel like that really started turning the wheel and kind of putting things in motion in order for that process to unfold. So when you hear the call to plant medicine, it can come through in so many different ways,
Oh,
it
that is so
grandmother
true.
ayahuasca.
It's
Yeah.
so true. I've heard so many people saying, like things like, I what? Oh, that just feels good. And even just saying it, or, oh, I can taste,
Hmm.
right? Oh, I have, I taste it, This is something that I find so interesting is, you feel the call, you feel the knowing of like, oh, I don't even know what you're talking about, but I know this is gonna be for me and this is gonna be big.
Oh my God, so big. And I was at the time that I was preparing to go into my first ayahuasca ceremony, I was in a very transitional point in my life with my career, and in in preparing to do this work, I feel like my own inner critic in my own life has criticized different parts of my life because I feel like nothing has worked out. My dad passed away when I was a senior in high school, and the first few years after that, I was really disconnected from my family. I was going through job after job after job. I was just searching and searching and searching. And I feel like that has, even before my dad had passed away, that has been kind of, you know, uh, echoed in different aspects of my life, where it's like this feeling of being unsatisfied with where I am, with who I am, with how I am. And then after my dad died, kind of that just exploded and expanded that even more. And, being through so many jobs that didn't work out, being through so many relationships that didn't work out, I saw myself get fixated on that and being like, well, what the hell is wrong with me? you know
Right. Enough.
and on the flip side of that, looking at all of these experiences that haven't worked out, that I feel like I have failed at, um, in working with psychedelics and plant medicine. Before I started using psychedelics in a ceremonial sense, and what I mean by ceremonial sense is with the set and the setting and the intention
Oh, yeah.
going into a psychedelic space, I still had these great knowings and these understandings of myself from the lens of the eagle, right? From sitting on the top of the tree and being able to look down at my life and everything that I had gone through, and realizing that it wasn't that I failed at these experiences. It's not that I'm this, bad person that can't do anything right. It's all of these, it's making me think of this song lyric from a Maestra song, I think Culture of Love, that, all of these broken pieces of shame was love showing me the way back to my own heart.
Oh,
And
yay.
and it's so apparent even in the work that I'm doing now, that really taking a look at my life and shifting that perspective from nothing ever works out to, things were taken out of my life in order for the things that were in alignment, and what I really needed to lean into, where everything else was cleared out so that that could be a clear space for me to step into.
That's
And
beautiful.
yeah, so you know I feel like I've been seeking for something. When I
Mm.
was young, it was magic, and it was trying to understand this divine energy and Utah.
I think we can
Growing
all
up, I
relate to that in some way, though. Like, I
yeah.
was thinking about the seeker within us the other day and thinking about how, that seeker within us can be either from a place of not good enough, or like where that we can be perpetuating that space of like the small self, like we were talking before, saying, I'm not good enough, let me seek outside of myself, let me seek God outside of myself, let me seek food, let me seek whatever is going to make this void that's within me filled up. But
Mhm.
then in the same respect is that when we come from that place of I don't even know the things that I don't know,
Yeah.
when we come from the place of, ooh, let me see what that childlike wonderment is going to bring me today. Let's see what the magic is going to be today, and be in that place of allowing, and in that place of, you know, absolute childlike wonderment of, oh boy, what's gonna be, what's gonna happen, and seeking how to align with the frequencies in the trajectory that we want to be in. And so I think that this is something that we really have to be mindful of, again, the intention, and be aware of that. Who's driving the bus?
Oh my gosh, exactly. Because to kind of tie that back in and continue that thought process, I had had several experiences with psychedelics outside of a ceremonial context, and I received great knowings and healings. I remember the first time I ever did mushrooms. I was with an ex-partner, and we were in my apartment, and it was like, God, it felt like 10 years of therapy in one session.
Right?
Because my dad had passed away. I think it had only been 2 or 3 years since he had passed away at that point. So I was very much still in like the raw process of dealing with the implications of that situation and how that affected me. And so in sitting with psilocybin, I had no idea what to expect, like I bought it from a friend at work, and I was with my boyfriend, and I was like, you want to try this with
Wanna do
me?
some mushrooms, y'all?
And so seeing myself in that psychedelic perspective, and it changes the focus from that perspective of the wounded child, of why did this happen to me, why is it, oh woe is me, to having everything be rearranged in my mind to be able to look back at that situation and just have an understanding of why it happened and that it was meant to teach me. you know it
Mm-hmm.
it took me out of that triangle of disempowerment between
Oh.
victim, abuser, savior, you know what I mean? And so mind you, I didn't, and
Weren't even aware of the
yeah,
triangle.
yeah, I wasn't even, yeah, exactly. And so it was just such a deep experience for me, and I was like, oh my God, like I had no idea that someone could even experience something so magical, you know
Isn't that
and
something? I think that is one of the most beautiful thing about psychedelics, is that it does give you, and this is something that I feel one of the biggest reasons, and I'm going to just speak to ayahuasca at this point, in the beauty of how and why I think it works so beautifully, is that it does take you, you're still having the felt sense of the experience within the body. You're having a somatic experience, which means that we can start clearing out some of that trauma. But it also lifts you up, and you're in your theta or higher, brain waves, which means that you do get that eagle perspective, and you can look at the situation from that higher perspective and kind of see, oh, okay, all right, I get this. I understand. This happened for me. This didn't happen to me. Oh,
Mhm.
I get it. And, with ayahuasca, because we are having the somatic and the body experience, is that any of that trauma that has been held within the physical body is going to come out in the purge, so that
Mhm.
we are actually purging out any kind of, and we know that any kind of psychological, emotional trauma that we've experienced in our lifetime, if we do not process it, it will get stuck in the body and start turning into dis-ease, right?
Mhm.
So the beauty of that is that, here's ayahuasca coming in, giving us a new perspective, and also cleaning out on the physical level. So this is a really, and I think because we are having the felt sense of the experience, it really anchors in that deep, 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 deep somatic body way. That now we know you are not separate from your dad, no matter where he is in the sacred realms, right? And we know
Right.
that this happened for you, and then we know that this is all a part of your leaving behind. And a lot of the things too, guys, is that when we're doing this work, we're doing a lot of ancestral work right here, right now on this planet. I mean, a ton of ancestral work. We are taking our ancestors' burdens and leaving them right here and bringing their gifts forward. So, a
Mhm.
lot of these things we've received in the DNA, and they're not even our baggage, like, so yeah.
And with that being said, I think that is why the use of psychedelics is so important to curate such a safe and sacred container for somebody to go through an experience like that, because
Absolutely.
after my first mushroom experience, I over the next several years was, experimenting with mushrooms, but mostly LSD, and using them, kind of going in knowing what to kind of expect with the experience after doing it a couple of times, but not having any sort of vehicle to guide that experience, not having any sort of intention to work through, the psychedelic session. And so, not to say that it wasn't magical and wonderful and fantastic, and that I did have great knowings that did come from that. I was at a festival called Element 11 here in Utah. It's the regional Burning Man festival. I was probably 23 at the time. And my ex partners were there at the festival, and they tried, the first day that I was there, they tried to get the police to come over to my camp, not even my camp, but my, like, the people that I had just met at this festival came over to their camp being like, where's Tyler Tanner, like he needs to leave this place, and blah 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 blah.
What?
And so that kind of set the tone for the entire.
Wow, no doubt.
And so I'm
Hence
like,
the setting, guys. When we talk about set and setting, we're talking about the setting in which you do your psychedelics
your
is
physical
important.
environment. Yes. Oh my God. Now, mind you, I feel like this did have to happen this way. As much as the setting is so important, I feel like there was a reason why I went through this experience. So that set the tone. That was the first day. That set the tone for the whole festival. You know what I mean? And so it was the second day, and it was the night before, it was going into the night where they were getting ready. They were going to have the fire performers. They were going to set the effigy on fire. I just have to tell you, it was the effigy that they burned. It was a box, and on top of this box, they had this giant wooden fucking unicorn, dude.
Woo!
And they had these beautiful fire dancers and performers, and they were spinning, and then they set that bitch on fire, and it was just this.
Nice. Pew,
Anyway,
pew.
so
Let it go, let it go, let it go, let
yes.
it go,
Oh
let
my
it
God.
go.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. It was so big that the fire was taking up so much oxygen that there were dust devils, like five at a time,
Wow.
all the time, just like dancing around the effigy. Oh my God, it was awe-inspiring. But so that was kind of the setting that I have going into this experience.
Hey,
and
we got you.
and I took like 3 hits of acid.
Oh, dang.
which is a lot.
Yes.
And I was having this like back and forth with myself going through this festival, and like my partners being there and not wanting to run into them while I'm alone, especially in an elevated state, being on acid like that. And I was like, I was kind of faced with a choice. I can stay here at camp and I can pout and I can wah, or I can put one foot in front of the other and I can walk out there and I can own that bitch. You know what I'm saying?
Right on.
So, and so that's what I chose to do. And I'm still in my process in the first hour after like taking this substance, and I'm having this inner dialogue with myself, like, why am I here? What am I doing this? I'm wearing gold spandex speedo with a fanny pack, standing naked with my boots in the middle of the desert, and there's people here that hate me and don't want me to be here. You know what I mean? And so I'm like my arms are crossed, and everyone, and so I'm having this thing with myself, and I'm like, okay, you know what, this isn't my first rodeo, this isn't my first time taking
And not my first
acid.
rodeo in gold spandex.
Oh hell no. So I put one foot in front of the other, and I was like, I need to be where the music is. I need to let the music carry me through this, and music is so important. We can get into that, but I was like, I need to just go and be where the music is, and just let it work through me. I was like, that's what I need to do. I need to do that. So I'm walking, everyone's congregating around, waiting for the fire dancers before, the festivities kind of start. And I'm standing there and I'm holding myself, and I'm really starting to feel this LSD, like the expandedness of the consciousness and the divine spirit within me, and feeling that connection to the earth and to the people. And you're in such an open and vulnerable space. And I'm standing there and I'm holding myself, and this man comes up to me, and he looks to be about in his 60s. He had long blonde hair, blue eyes, and he looks at me. He doesn't say a word, and he comes over and he puts his arms around me, and he
Aw.
just holds me. And
Aw.
But first, because you're so open in that experience, you're so susceptible to outside energies. At first
For sure.
I was like, what the fuck? I was like, what is this? Like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what your intentions are and anything, but he just held me. And I let myself lean into that and allow him to hold me. And I haven't said a word at this point. And he grabs me by my shoulders and he stands me in front of him and he looks me in my eyes and he goes, you deserve to be here.
This was your higher self coming in, wasn't it?
Holy shit. Well, it,
Or
it gets
your or your future self.
it gets crazier, Star. It gets
Okay.
crazier. So he is standing and he's holding me and he's looking in my eyes and he goes, you deserve to be here. He goes, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Basically, like,
Wow.
this is your burn too, you know and he continues and goes on, and he's like, I'm sorry, I don't know why I came up here, but he looks at me and he goes, you remind me of my son. You remind me of my son who died several years ago now at this point. And everything just synced up inside of me, and I fucking lost it, dude. I am sobbing, and I broke against this man and just cried, and he held me, and he goes, I really, I don't understand what's happening right now, but you are my son. I'm saying goodbye to my son right now. And he goes, I know that we are here having this experience right now because you deserve to be here with your father, and I'm sorry that you can't.
Wow.
And I'm just like, what? And mind you, I'm now peaking on this psychedelic experience, and so this is so profound, and this is so at the core of a human being witnessing another human being. And at that moment, I was no longer, I was like, I mean, I was me, but I was also a vessel, and I was holding the
Right.
spirit of his son in the same way that he was holding the spirit of my father. And so this entire life experience to collude and come together to this point to where we are now at the precipice of this deep healing of losing a family member on both ends.
Right.
We both received so much in that
Wow.
moment.
What a deep healing. Thank you, Spirit. Wow.
Yeah.
orchestrating that incredible experience.
Oh my gosh. It was like I literally came home after that and I wrote like 30 pages of the
I
experience. I
bet.
still have it somewhere. And
I
so
bet.
it was such a deep healing experience for me, and it really was just it was, you know, at that moment to where how can you deny the divine timing of this life and of this
Oh,
experience? Like, I mean, I felt like for me, it would be foolish for me to disregard that or to say it was just the drugs or it was just, you know, the psychedelic
yeah,
experience.
right.
But to there's just so many moving pieces and synchronicities that came into play for that
For
moment.
sure.
That was a very pivotal moment for me in my life and my trajectory and where I was going, because he looked at me still and he looked at me and he goes, "You are a leader and you are here to show people a new world of love and acceptance." And he was like, "It is going to be fucking hard and you are going to want to give up." But he looks at me and he goes, "You are strong enough to persevere." And I have such a back and forth with my own perspective of myself and the lens that I view myself in. And that is really where I feel like a lot of my deep work comes from is, you know, accepting that I don't want to say accepting that role or that title, you know, because that puts it in a limited sense, but you know, hearing him and hearing his message and seeing what that means for me in my own life and how I can step in and embody that, you know, it's like I have such a back and forth with it because it feels like stepping in and claiming that or stepping into that embodiment. It feels almost like I feel this contradiction of this hierarchical
That's
thing,
right. And
you
this
know.
is the thing. And I don't want to cut you off because you're on a roll, but I got to step in and talk a little bit about what that conflict feels. And I feel it within you and the energy of that. But I think that this is something that I think many of us have wrestled with, and that is we know that we're being called into a leadership role. However, we are, back to the sacral card, we're creating a new paradigm and we're no longer stepping into leadership the way that we knew it. So we're navigating new spaces and what leadership really looks like, where there is no separation, there is no hierarchy, where we are in sacred service to one another. And this is really what the leadership is starting to look like and starting to line up about. And that leadership is we all have incredible experiences to share with one another. And so this is where what leadership is starting to look like. It's not coming from a place of, an old paradigm of control. It's coming from a place of let's share.
And support.
Let's see how I can support you and on this journey. Let's
Mm.
see how you can support me on this journey. There is a whole new way of navigating what leadership looks like. And I would love, 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 love to hear from you all and how you're navigating this new space of leadership and how maybe you're finding your way in stepping into your role or title, in this new way of being in this sacred service in leadership and what that might look like for you. And I know that for many of us, it's shifts in the mindsets. And we're looking at shifting the mindset of corporations, of government. We have to shift the mindset. This is what the new leadership is all about, is shifting the mindset so that we can start a new trajectory and a new way of being where there is not a foundation of racism and a foundation of cultural misappropriation and a foundation of us versus them and, might makes right and all the bullshit that we've been conditioned towards. And so we know that we are I feel like I'm on a rant, you guys. It's all just, coming through. So bear with me. It's really important for us to step in knowing, and this is, I think, why so many of us are moving towards psychedelics. And this is why the psychedelic and the plant medicines are moving out of the jungle and moving into all the different species on the earth, so that we can raise the vibration on this planet, so that we can really make a huge collective shift in consciousness and changing the mindset of this way in leadership, and how this massive shift is going to take place for us.
100%. Thank you so much for sharing that, Starr, and for receiving my story. And, thank you to everybody that's, listening. It was something that was so impactful for me.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it's so interesting because we talk a lot about in ceremony versus out of ceremony, intention versus non intention. And, it's always because I walk the path in the way that I do, it's always for me in a ceremonial sense and with an intention. And I'm always very clear about the set and setting. But that being said, it's a perfectly perfect intention to go and have fun, to open up and be, let me see what's going to happen for me. So I think that in that sense, with you at a festival, I mean, there was an intention there. I'm going to, do do psychedelics at a festival. And, and we also understand this is that many times that we set an intention, that intention shifts and changes based on what we have received in the medicine. Oh, I was looking at it from this angle, and now grandmother wanted me to look at it from this angle, and I set the intention for this. Now I had to rise up into eagle vision, and I had to pare back some of the stories and some of the traumas and dramas. Now I can see that my intention needed to be X, Y, or Z, or that intention was met in a totally different way than I ever dreamed that it would be. And I can say, speaking from my own experiences, that I've looked back even from the very beginning ceremonies that I had, way, 2005, 2006, 2007. Understanding that intention was absolutely met. And I can look back now and go, oh my gosh, and that's how that happened, or that's why that was shown to me in that way. Now I can see it. So, people often ask, well, how long is the integration period? How long do we stay on dieta after? How long do we have to keep this dieta? Whatever. But the integration part is forever, ever, 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 ever. Like really and truly, when I tell you that I get hits from that very first ceremony, or that, all my times with Pandoro, in Puerto Maranado or whatever, that's very serious. I definitely have deeper understandings of what has happened over the course of time, and I can see how things unfolded and what I was being shown. And from a different perspective, and from like this hindsight, I always say enlightenment is hindsight. Where we can look back and go, oh shit, that's what that, now I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was, it was several years after that, Starr, before we actually met, when I had that
For
experience
sure.
at
Yeah.
that festival. And so I felt such a deep calling to the psychedelic experience. And I felt like it was something that was medicine for everybody. I was like, oh my God, if the whole world went through a psychedelic experience, where would we be right now? You
Right?
know?
Yeah, just even our leaders, you know.
Oh my God, yes. And
I think
so,
that's really that would be an amazing thing. I've always there was a bunch of memes that were going around for a while, and boy, did I get on the bandwagon, you know. Congress Congress sitting in ayahuasca, you know, I'd get all of these people that would send me these memes, you know, are you can you lead that one, you know, can you lead that ceremony? Would you bring Congress to ayahuasca ceremony, or the police, you know, can you bring the
yeah,
police to the ayahuasca ceremony? And it's like, yeah, sure, let's go.
let's go. Let's
Let's
do the
go,
damn thing, you know?
right?
And
Let's do. I might need an assistant, Ty.
come in and help with some of these paper baths, you know what I'm saying?
See what I'm saying? These guys need some vapor baths, you see? So, wow, yeah, that's amazing. And I think that your experience with your dad, and, you know, coming and you being the son, I mean, like, what an incredible, beautiful healing.
Oh my gosh. It's so I was able to say goodbye to my father in a way that I would have never thought possible,
Right.
because in the way that he passed, you know, that goodbye was taken away from not only me, but from my siblings and from our entire
Right.
family.
Right.
And so being in a position where you're able to honor and say goodbye in this lifetime, at least, you know, to the physicality of having that person there in your experience,
Yeah.
it was so powerful and it was so healing, you know. And um after the next couple of years, you know, having this desire to dive into psychedelics, to have a deeper understanding of myself, but how can I share this with other people in a safe way? And I have
Oh.
had, and that's another piece that comes back for me that I need to look back at, because here I am stepping into a leadership role, into a mentorship role to help facilitate these great ceremonies for this opportunity of great healing for people, and being a vessel to hold that safe and sacred container for other participants to
Oh.
have their own experience in the safest way possible. I have had experiences, you know, where that was not the case. I on the flip end of that have seen the devil in a psychedelic experience, and I
Right. The
have
shit
had
show that can really go down if we don't, if you're not in that safe container, in that sacred container.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so that I feel like is so important for me, kind of after, you know, our paths have crossed, and everything that I have learned from you and from myself and from my guides, from being in such a safe and sacred container, communing with grandmother ayahuasca, you know, and understanding the way that things played out, to understand the seriousness of being in a safe environment when you were going into these psychedelic experiences. And so I'm very grateful, Starr, that our paths have crossed, and everything that, you know, you have shared with me and that I have learned in my own path from doing this work. So thank you so
Back
much.
at you, bro. Back at you. It's an honor. And, you know, like I said, you guys, to witness Tyler's transformation and watching him grow, and now stepping into, you know, being there as an assistant with me in ceremonies, and, you know, stepping into his, like, what, wow, you know, just fucking wow, you know, it's such a honor, really is an honor. And so I'm so grateful that our paths have crossed, you know. And in a similar way, um as you were sharing your story, i I had a remembrance of us in ceremony. I think it was our Sedona ceremony.
Oh, so good.
So good, so good. So this is, I'm starting to feel the emotion come up, so bear with me here. um so oh my gosh, this is really hard to say. All right, so hold sacred space with me, guys. I have a beautiful nephew, Sammy, who had passed away. And I was the Shama Mama on deck for his end of life. He got into a car accident and was in a coma for a month. And I had to be that person, not only in the physical realm, to help with the logistics of the physicians telling my sister, we're going to have to pull his ventilator. We've given him the time. And if he does come out of the coma, there's not much going on up in his brain. He's got severe brain trauma and he will be a vegetable the rest of his life. So I have to deal with that kind of negotiation and that kind of talk, and my sister saying, fuck you, I'm never taking my son off of a ventilator. He's going to be around for the rest of however long he needs to be here. But I also have the shaman role of doing the negotiations for his soul. And honestly, Sammy's saying, fuck to the no, I'm not coming back. I am not coming back into that body. I am not coming back into this lifetime. And I am going to take whatever it is that I need to do next, and I'm going to do it. Whatever repercussions I have to face, whatever it is, hear me, fuck to the no. Loud and clear. Like, do not negotiate me coming back into this body. Hear me. Sit me down and square me up, right? Like telling me, please do not negotiate for my soul to come back. So I've got to let my sister know this. She does not want to hear this. And I got to find the right portals and the right timing and the right energy and the right everything to deliver the message in its truth as clearly as I possibly can. And then I've got to negotiate his soul because he is made some choices in his life. Right? He made some choices in his life that were not of the highest good. And so now he's got to face that. And he's got to face what his next step in his karmic life is. And so why am I bringing all this up right now? Because we went through all of these negotiations. We were able to, he's working with the Grim Reaper right now. And he loves it. He is one of the beings that will come and help carry the soul across to get where it needs to go when a being has passed away. So ironically, he's one of the guides that I can call in and will help me when I'm at end-of-life care with people. And he will make sure that they get to where they need to go. So this is really cool. But as you can imagine, you know, that's a lot. That's a lot to deal with, right? And I stood strong and stoic as fuck through it all, like months and months and months of all of this. And at the same time, my mom is passing away. At the same time, my mom is being in lockdown at a facility for Alzheimer's, which she doesn't have Alzheimer's, but she's got delusion and she's really losing her shit. And she ends up with a stroke and a heart attack and all of that. So we've got a lot of things juggling on the plate at the same time. And I'm standing in that path, knowing that I'm being guided, knowing that I'm getting the messages, and knowing that all is happening for its highest good. And I'm just kind of being that orchestrator and, you know, the Shama Mama on deck, as they like to call it. And so here we are now, I think 3 years down the road after Sammy's death, and I am in ceremony with Ty, and he's morphing into my nephew. This is Sammy coming in. You guys, if I were to bring up a picture of Sam, you would go, these guys are fucking twins. They twin physically. They look exactly alike. And I never saw that until the ceremony in Sedona. And I'm like, what is happening? Tyler's turning into my nephew. And my nephew came into the ceremony and sat down with me and was like, I just really want to thank you for that. I don't know that I actually thanked you for all of that, and I've gone back in multiple ceremonies while I was in the jungle just to check in and like, can we renegotiate now? Can he be done with being with the Grim Reaper because of my own? I don't want my nephew to be working with the Grim Reaper. And he sat in that ceremony and said, by the way, would you stop it? I really like my job. I love what I'm doing. Would you stop trying to renegotiate my position here? Like, I was born to do this. My soul was born to do this. Like, I love what I'm doing. So it's a really beautiful situation. But for whatever reason, when you were sharing your story about what happened to you in that festival, I got this energy understanding that you can be a conduit. You specifically being a conduit for people who have passed. Have you had experiences like that before or
Um,
after?
yes. It
Do you think that's why you're going? I'm sorry, I'm asking these questions and then not giving you the time, but they're
and no,
coming
it's
in really fast. The
okay.
questions. Um, Also, and how it's related to the work that you are in now in your as a nursing assistant in.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. When you were first asking me that question, it brought me back to it was about a month or so. It was very recent after my dad died, and um, my stepmom had gone to a psychic uh, for some type of mediumship to, kind of have some closure about the situation, I feel
She
like.
wasn't asking
And
where the will was.
yeah,
Yeah, you
right,
see on the movies
right.
all the time. Where's the will? Let's go see the psychic. Sorry,
uh,
I don't mean to make light, but it's
no, please. I mean,
my warped
laughter is
sense
the
of
best
humor,
medicine
y'all.
in all of this. If we can't look at the absolute absurdity and insanity of this life and everything that we have to go through with a little bit of laughter, what the hell are we
Oh,
doing?
yeah, man, that's the truth. Sense of humor.
uh, so it was a month or so after my dad had passed, and my stepmom had gone and seen this psychic. I don't know if she ever found the will. She lost the house, but so I guess it didn't go that far. Um, sorry. So she had gone to this psychic, and the psychic had apparently told her, you know, um, you have, to my stepmom, she is saying, you have this man in your life. He is probably a son type figure. If he's not yours directly, he plays a role like that in your life. And I'm here to tell you that he is a vessel. He is a vessel for Jace, my dad, to come through, and was basically telling my stepmom that, I was a vessel for my father in
Look at
some way
Tyler's
to help
head lighting up.
facilitate.
Did you guys see that? You said I'm a vessel, and your head or your whole head lit up.
Ah! so she was asking me about that, and she was like, are you like channeling Jace right now? She was like, are you reading me? Are you getting hits off of me? Like, what's happening? And I was only like 18 at the time. It's like, what the hell? I don't understand how to wrap my mind around this. But I feel like that is very um much aligned with a lot of the experiences that I've had in my life from the time that I was a small child, that people have said, oh, you're an old soul. Oh, you are here for a special reason, like. And then even as I started getting older, and interactions that I would have with, like, other children my age, it's always kind of been this thing that's been echoed back to me. And it's like, how do I face this, and how do I honor this, and how do I accept this into my life without the egoic, titles and
Right, right.
entitlement of it all. I remember I was at a pagan festival, pagan pride. I was probably younger than 20, and I walked up to this person who was pulling like oracle cards for people in the crowd. It was a crowd of maybe like 10 to 20 people. And she had finished up, but I walked up right as she was finishing, and she goes, "Oh, like you need me to pull a card for you." And I was like, "Okay."
Okay, good.
And she pulls a card, and she kind of like, it was very dramatic. She was,
Oh, of course.
and she goes, she basically gives me the title of healer, and she says, "Thank you for coming up. It's an honor to meet you. And like, thank you for accepting the work here in this lifetime." And it was so big, and it was so genuine. And having that not be an isolated experience, but to have that experience in multiple times from so many different angles from different people all throughout my life. And then I went and saw a psychic one time who had pulled some cards and told me that this lifetime that I am currently working with is my final lifetime here on this earth. She says, "I will not come back and incarnate as a human being again on this planet." And so, with all of that, um, these are all wonderful and beautiful things to be told, you know, like how what an honor it is to be told that somebody is thankful for the fact that they were just able to meet you and say thank you for the work that you have come here and are willing to do on this
It's so
planet.
humbling, right?
It is so humbling. And then on the other end of that coin, I battle with it, and I fight with it so hard, in the sense of like, who the hell are you? Who are you to you know
Yes.
so it's like a constant beating.
Meaning yourself, not the person who's saying that.
Oh,
To
yes, 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 yes. Thank you,
I
thank you,
know
thank you,
what
thank
you
you.
mean, but I
So
wanted to clarify that.
yes,
Who the hell are you to tell me that? No, it's
yeah,
like, who the hell am I, right?
right. And so that's kind of, this conversation that I've had with myself. And it all ties back to, what I feel like in the shadows is what's weighing me down, is this sense of like not fulfilling my life's purpose, and not, being able to step into the roles that I've agreed to do here on this earth. And so having all of that feedback echoed to me my entire life from all of these external sources, and then the inner battle that I have with myself, which is, at the end of the day, is the only thing that matters, is the relationship that you have with yourself, and and how you are choosing to step into your embodiment of your highest self in this life. That is a battle that I am facing even today.
I think we
So,
all do, and I think that is it's such an interesting thing, how do we keep humble but yet also step into our place in this universe? And sometimes I think that we feel like, if we do, what are people going to think?
oh my
Are
God.
they going to think that we're too egoic? Are they going to think we're too much? And all of the stories around, it's not even sometimes what about what other people think. It's really about that small self really feeling like it's okay.
Hmm.
It's okay. Wherever we are, right here, right now, it's perfect. I had to deal with that, Ty, in my own journey. And I still, not to say that I'm over it by any means, but no, I had to really face it in saying yes to the plant medicines and that I would carry the plant medicine. And that was a huge piece for me in that. And so I totally understand where you're coming from. And, you know, when grandmother started, tapping on my shoulder and saying, we really want you to carry the medicine, I was like, flat out, no fucking way. you know, who am I to do that? Well, who are you? You've been walking the shaman's path for, since 2000. It's a good thing, like you got some experience. That's who you are. And she, for 3 years straight, was relentless in showing me who I am to carry this medicine. And when I finally did say yes, that I would carry the medicine, it was such a huge experience in seeing my small self, being afraid that I would, my whole question to her every single time that she would show me was, why me? I'm just a little gringa girl, like, why me? And I was always concerned about cultural misappropriation and, who am I, again, and that there's so many beautiful beings that have, this is in their lineage,
Mm.
right? They've been carrying this medicine, and their grandfather and their grandmother's been carrying this medicine, and their great great grandmother and their great 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 great. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is, like, why not go to the OGs? Why would you come to somebody who, is like, a baby on the path? And, we've been, I got the message over and 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 over again that these medicines really need to come out, and that there's going to be a time where the borders are going to be closed and people are not going to be able to travel. You can't get to Peru, or that the borders are going to be closed and you cannot get out of your own country, or, that it's challenging. Not everybody can take off for, 3 weeks to go to Peru and spend the time and the energy. And so we need this medicine out there. We need this shift in consciousness, like, now, boots on the ground, let's go, like, urgent, urgent. This is urgent. And so we really need sort of the all hands on deck. And, yeah. So it was really necessary for me to face that small self, and I was placed in a position, in a ceremony, where I had to step in.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no getting around it, and I didn't know any Icaros at the time. I sang Amazing Grace, y'all. I knew some medicine songs, from being in medicine circles, but no, not any. Zero. Traditional Icaros that, I now sing in ceremony. I didn't know any traditional. So yeah, stepping in when the shaman had kind of lost her way in ceremony, and was kind of crawled up in my lap and was crying and crying and crying, and, was going through her own process. And, I'm hearing spirit say, you need to go sit next to her and run some energy.
Mm-hmm.
Try to bring her back in alignment. And mostly that the other people in the group were kind of getting a little concerned, like, oh shit, is she crying? Like, what's happening? Like, what's going on? And,
Yeah.
it's not to say that shaman don't cry in ceremony, because God knows there's been many times that I have just, the tears are just rolling down my face as I'm singing, but it's part of the emotion that you're feeling and the energy that you're feeling. It's a whole different story as if I'm in my own process and working through the stuff, as rather you're, the person that is in, holding the space for others. It's a different energy. So yeah, it was really big to be able to get past the small self and say, well, there's a bigger calling. There's something bigger that's happening than this little small voice that keeps saying, you can't do it. There was something bigger that needed, the calling was a lot bigger than the small self was. And that was what really drew me in. And I think that that's really where I stand right now, is that the calling is way bigger than my self-doubts. The calling is way bigger than um, the small self, or the small, the part of me that doesn't feel enough or adequate or whatever. Is that the calling is way bigger. And when we're committed to doing this path and to walking this path in this way, you have to allow that calling to guide you, to be that, and to say, all right, small self, you better sit your ass down now.
Yeah, and I
I,
feel like that can be translated and is so relatable to everybody. How
absolutely.
are you making the choice to step into the embodiment of your fullest self in your life, you know? If
Absolutely. Are
if
you going to let your addictions, are you going to let your small self, are you going to let your trauma control you, or are you going to feel the bigger calling towards what it is that you want in your life? And this is really what it takes, in
Yes.
that willpower, that strength, that courage, whatever it is, let the calling hold you in the palm of its hand and guide you.
And be willing, even if it's, soft, even if you have to whisper it, have the courage and the strength to make a choice
To
and say
say,
yes,
okay, all right, I'll
you know,
do it. Let's go. Okay.
because
All
we all
right.
have a
And then
choice.
that small little, okay, I'll do it, turns into a,
Yes.
okay, let's go. Yes, I'm on it.
Like,
Oh.
yeah, I was thinking like putting on the crown, like stepping into your, power, but I feel like I am attaching too many like egoic stories onto the idea of a crown. I can't help it. I'm a Leo. I like gold and I like crowns. You know what I'm saying? But
Oh. Yeah, yeah,
but
no
yeah,
doubt, no doubt.
we are all kings and queens here
We
on.
are all kings and queens, and we do oftentimes receive a crown in ceremony,
Mhm.
right? Especially like when we're stepping into our higher self, we may be gifted from the plant spirits some sort of a crown. I've been gifted a beautiful crown from Noyarao, which is one of the plant spirits that I've dieted, and she guides me so very much in my. And I've also received a mushroom crown from Maria Sabina, which is really looks like a little, mushroom hat. It's kind of fun, But yeah, so step into however way that looks, and it's not an egoic thing. It's saying, hey, you can embody your highest self. You can embody the wisdom that these plant spirits are bringing to
Mhm.
us, and that yeah, it's more than okay. It's a affirmative
Eat it.
yes.
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 And you shining your light as bright as the sun, does not take away from somebody else's light. And I think that we need to remember that and stepping into that embodiment, on putting on that crown, it is not indicative of putting somebody else down. We
That's true.
It's quite the opposite. When you are able to step into your full embodiment, you're able to show others that they can give themselves permission to do the same.
Exactly. I
you
think
know
that that's truth.
yeah.
Wow. So, what a beautiful podcast. Thank you for sharing so deeply. And um, so, this is podcast number 1. We have so far about, what is it, 6 in the pocket that we're going to start unfolding. And so we just wanted to come back in and re record podcast 1. So we want to thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for tuning in. There's lots of different things that we're talking about in these other podcasts, plant medicines, Ikaros, the energy alignment. We have a few interviews. I think we have four interview podcasts. So it's very exciting. I hope that you will continue to join us. We are going to continue to put these out each week. And if you have any suggestions for us, please, 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 please. We'd love to hear some of the topics that you'd like for us to cover. We'd love to hear what you think about all of this and how it's resonating with you. We also are having a portion of our podcast dedicated to those of you who are already in sacred service and maybe would like for us to do an announcement on our podcast so that we get the information out there for whatever it is that you're doing in your world. So, this is a podcast that comes from our hearts. And even though it comes from our hearts, we'd like to keep the lights on and keep going. So if you'd like to make a donation, you can do so. We will put our Venmo information down in the comments so that you can, or in the description, so that you can make your donation if you feel called to. And what else, Ty? What else do we want to say about this in our closing?
Thank you. Just thank you for coming here
Oh,
with an open heart and open ears and, being willing to have an open mind. Thank you for everyone who listened to the entire episode. You guys are troopers. I know we get on these tangents and it's so hard. We're going to get on here and condense this down to an hour. You know what I mean? But it's just, I feel like we always just have so much good conversation and things to expound on. So thank you guys for tuning in, for showing up. And I wish you all the best of luck in your own life and, really step into that embodiment of, your highest self and go and kick some ass. I do want to just
step
kind of,
into the sacral chakra creation.
yes. And then in addition to, as Starr was saying, thank you guys so much. Please like, subscribe, share, give your suggestion, feedback on what you would like to see. And we will see you guys next time. Thank you.
Peace.